Welcome to another special edition of Fatima Television Worldwide. I'm John Vennari, and we are here at our conference in Rome called Fatima, Your Last Chance. We're interviewing the various speakers at this conference, and we have a special guest today, Father Cyprian, OSB. He's a Benedictine prior from Our Lady of Guadalupe Monastery in Silver City, New Mexico. Well, please welcome Father Cyprian to the program. Father Cyprian, thank you for being with us. And there's a lot to talk about because most of our viewers, I'd be willing to say, don't really know much about monastic life. So starting from zero, a kind of monastery 101, what can you tell us about monastic life? We could talk about St. Benedict afterwards or before, however you want to do it.
The monastic life is usually best understood as maybe the fourth generation of the apostles. The first generation of the disciples of Christ were the apostles, and after them their disciples, and then you had the church fathers who explained in their sermons the teaching of the apostles. Wrote it down, and those are the sermons that we read in the breviary of the church. Then you have the monastic fathers that followed. And there's where the idea of monasticism, the monastic way of life, which is a unique way of life, really is seen for the first time. The apologists of the monastic life always refer back to the disciples of Christ and as kind of the first monks. Monk is a Greek word which means one, having a singular vision, a singular will, a desire, which is God alone. And later in the monastic orders, such as the Trappists or the Cistercians, the monks, when they would always write on top of their paper, Soli Deo, God alone. So again, the idea of what a monk is and what he stands for. And then secondly, the historical context of the monastic way of life, as you were saying, really does revolve around Saint Benedict, because he in history, as he is described by the church, by the apologists of monasticism and the historians, is a central figure of taking the preceding years of the religious way of life, the apostolic era, the patristic era, the desert fathers, and putting it all into one way of life. So he is the bridge between East and West. He himself is a Roman, but able to bring the spirit and the ideal of the Eastern Church and make everything into one order, one ideal, which is perhaps the way it should be, making it into the universal ideal of the monastic way of life. And then from St. Benedict's time forward to our days, you have hundreds upon hundreds of religious orders, or especially the Tridentine congregations of the Renaissance, which always took something of the rule of St. Benedict, of something of his spirit, and put that into their own rule to always have a living reference to the original form of the religious way of life, the monastic way of life. For us, to be a religious, to be a contemplative, to be a monk, it's all the same thing for us, because as I say, in the time of Saint Benedict, it was all brought together into one form, objectively, a way of the vocation blessed by the Church, whereby a layman or a laywoman could leave the world, enter a monastery, be taken care of, and join a community patterned after the model of the apostles and the disciples of Christ. That's the religious vocation per se, and that's the essence of the monastic way of life.
Well, it's kind of the essence, too, of what happened to St. Benedict himself. He lived in the 4th century, Rome, correct?
5th century.
5th century. And Rome was, of course, becoming quite corrupt and immoral, and he fled Rome. But the interesting point I want to make about monastic life that you might want to comment on is that there's a twofold element of the man who enters the monastic life. There is the abandonment of the world, but that's the negative aspect. But the positive aspect is the one who wants to seek God, to live completely for God.
Yes, in the writings of Abbot Marmion, the three principal books of Abbot Marmion are Christ's Life of the Soul, which is his commentary on the epistles of St. Paul, the spirituality of St. Paul. The second volume is Christ's Idea of the Monk, which is his explanation of the rule of St. Benedict. And then you have Christ in his Mysteries, which is his explanation of the liturgical year. Mm-hmm. So in that second book, he devotes several chapters to that great line of Saint Benedict, where he says, "To be a monk, you have to seek God." And obviously, he's not talking about a monk who is lost and searching for God as someone who cannot find him. Mm-hmm. But obviously, we're talking here about something spiritual, something of the soul, whereby we engage ourselves in the study of the life of God and the knowledge of God through scriptures, through tradition, through liturgy, the means given to us by the Church to obtain that knowledge of God, which is actually union with God, to be united to God. So if the monk truly seeks that, then he can be admitted to the community.
So Saint Benedict, the great accomplishment of Saint Benedict, of course, was the Holy Rule, the Rule of Saint Benedict, which really codified monastic life. I'm sure
Yes.
There's quite a bit we could say about that. Where would you like to start?
Well, the Rule of Saint Benedict is certainly the mission statement of Christendom. If you could make of the mission statement the previous teachings of the Church and of the saints, and then of course the synthesis of the Gospels, which is what Saint Gregory the Great calls the Rule, and then apply that to an order of society, an order of life, where God is at the center, the Church is at the center. For example, in the medieval times, we visit the beautiful villages of Europe, and we see always in the middle of the village and in the highest point, if the village is on a hill, a church. And of course, the church is a shrine built around the Blessed Sacrament. The Blessed Sacrament is the presence of God. And the monastic way of life is built around that. And so in many villages, dating back to the era of St. Benedict, you had the heart of the Catholic village was the monastery. And so the monks, through their example of prayer and adoration and the service of God, would temper and influence the life of Catholicism. So that was, of course, based on the Rule. The monk's code of life is the Rule. And so that idea of the Rule as the law of Catholic society, even has vestiges to our days today. We encounter many times, obviously, when the monks travel, sometimes it gets a lot of attention. And people ask us, are we the ones with the liquor? Are we the ones who do this? Or whatever is the established caricature of monasticism. And they, so we take advantage of the friendly preface to engage in maybe a reminder that a lot of what you see in Europe is thanks to Saint Benedict. And I remember living in Europe during the time when Saint Benedict was declared the patron of Europe, and the postage stamps on our mail were the Saint Benedict postage stamps. And so that was in the anniversary, 1980, from 480, from his birth to 1980. So declared by the Pope, declared by Christian society, that Saint Benedict is indeed the patron of Christendom. And I think it was Hilaire Belloc who said, the faith is Europe, and Europe is the faith. Mm-hmm. And the Benedictines say Romanesque is Benedictine, Benedictine is Romanesque. Therefore, the example of Rome and of the Roman Empire, the Roman architecture, and the Romanitas, the spirit of Rome, is really our family treasure, our family heritage. So not so much the B&B, but the Romanitas is really our family treasure.
In the beginning of the rule, Saint Benedict, he talks about the instruments of good works. And he also talks about the monastery that provides the framework for the man, for the monk dedicated to God, to live those instruments of good works.
Yes, yes. The chapter 4, the Rule of Saint Benedict. The Rule of Saint Benedict is a book of 73 chapters. It was once 72 chapters based on Scripture, and an extra chapter was added at the end. And the first word of the Rule of Saint Benedict is in Latin, ausculta, listen. And the very last word of the rule on the last page is pervenias, and you will arrive. Listen, in other words, docility, of a discipleship, a student, a servant, obedience, listen, and then you will arrive, obviously, to heaven. And so each of the 73 chapters deals with the principles, the universal principles of Catholic society, as lived out in miniature in the monastery, which is a miniature church, where the abbot is the pope, he's the bishop, he has jurisdiction over his community. He is the miniature model of the universal church, and also the family. And so we can take the universal, we can extract the universal principles of the Rule of Saint Benedict and apply them to not only to the ideal of society, but also its restoration. Saint Benedict lived in a time of crisis, and today is a time of crisis. And Saint Benedict, who once provided the answer to the crisis of his era, the 5th century, the collapse of the Roman system, today we feel has the same answers to the great restoration in today's context of crisis as well.
That's interesting because two of the aspects of Benedictine monasticism that come to my mind that are kind of the antithesis of the modern world is the first is the total dedication to God. And secondly, the stability, the fact that the men in the monastery are stable in one place.
Yes, the monastic vows are actually 5. We say 3, but the modern idea of religious vows, which are poverty, chastity, and obedience, stability, and conversion of life. But for us, we still say it only in 3 words. So the obedience, the stability, and the conversion of life all contain in an older language, an older vocabulary that dates back to Saint Benedict and perhaps to the fathers before him, the same idea of consecration, of stability, of the idea that God can be served, souls can be served without traveling, without face-to-face communication, without sort of the weaker aspects of the missionary apostolate, but the essence of the apostolate. And for this reason, the Holy Father declared Saint Therese of Lisieux the patroness of foreign missions, a cloistered Carmelite nun who didn't go anywhere. She wanted to, but she was able to travel more, cover more miles than the most zealous missionary. She, from her kneeler in the chapel, through prayer and through union with God, through intercession. Therefore, the importance of intercession, the importance of staying with God in His divine presence in the church, and because the work is His. We forget sometimes in the zeal of action that we are only the very smallest players in a divine work. And so the divine hand has to arrange the order of how He is to communicate Himself to the people. And so the monks help to remind the church, or the world actually, so caught up today in action, that to be careful and not to forget the essence of what makes action fruitful. And that's God. Only God can do that. Only grace. The Archbishop of Japan was asked back in the days of when the missionaries were being shipped to Japan on every ship, and he was asked, what can we do to help the Asian missions, to convert people to the church? He said, all we need is the grace of God. And so he was able to touch upon the very essence of missionary action, which is to be instruments of God's grace. But it is the work of God. And so the monks are a reminder that stability in the monastery and the example of prayer and the divine office, the Mass, the devotions, the observances of the rule, these are all non-variables in the universal life of the church.
That brings us to what St. Benedict says in the rule, that let nothing be preferred to the work of God. Now, you and I know what that means, but what are we talking about when we talk about the work of God?
Nicire proponere operi Dei. Let nothing be preferred to the work of God. That's from chapter 4 of the rule, and mentioned in other chapters. Chapter 4 of the rule is the chapter you spoke about, the instruments of good works, which is a litany of 72 little rhyming Latin phrases by which a monk can memorize and carry out his vocation, a little checklist of perfection. And St. Benedict calls these tools in a workshop. So the monastery is not a workshop where things are made, transformations are made, and where the monk dedicates his action. And The divine office, this work of God, which is its original name, just as the original name of the Mass is the breaking of the bread. The original name of the divine office is the work of God. And so the work of God represents the 8 hours, what are called the hours of the divine office, according to the Psalms, according to the way the Israelites lived their life. They would face the east 7 times a day and rise once at night. At least the priests in the temple or the virgins consecrated to the temple. The early forms of consecrated life, they would face Jerusalem or the east 7 times a day and recite psalms and rise in the middle of the night for the same purpose. And so the divine office is a structured prayer, an ordered prayer designed by the church based on the Psalms, which are the essential prayer of our inheritance from the Old Testament, and then with each structured hour of the divine office, it doesn't last 1 hour. It's just the appointed time of the divine office, where the monks, as Saint Benedict says, drop what they're doing, even to the point of leaving something unfinished, to obey the ringing of the bell, which is a consecrated thing representing the voice of God. Bells are used to stop storms. In the old days, if there was a bad storm, the priest would go ring the bell and to stop the storm. Or the bells are also have an exorcism to chase away the enemy of the church. And so this voice of God in the bell calls the monks to come and worship him 8 times a day, 7 times during the day, once at night. Each of the divisions of the natural day, that's from sun up to sun down, has at its beginning that appointed hour of prayer.
Now, Saint Benedict devised this that the entire 150 Psalms would be spread out over the space of a week.
Yes.
And this is chanted.
Yes, the divine office is traditionally, as it is in our house, sung in Gregorian chant 8 times a day. And in Latin, the universal, our mother tongue, the church is our mother tongue is therefore Latin, the universal language of the church. So Gregorian chant, the inspired music of the Holy Ghost, God teaching us how to worship him on his own terms, as he is. So chant is for us a quasi part of divine revelation. You see the beautiful picture at St. Peter's of St. Gregory the Great receiving the inspiration of the Holy Ghost, whispering into his ear, dictating the Gregorian notation, or the chant notation, and so it's been come to be known as Gregorian chant since it was first communicated to St. Gregory the Great. And also, as I say, the Latin language, since the monks keep silence during the day, speaking only in sign language, we actually, no matter where you are in the world, in any monastery, traditionally speaking, you would speak more Latin than your own language, and you would sing more than you would talk. and such is the ideal of a Catholic way of life, where there's music, there's the culture of language, the mystical aspect of the liturgy, which also is part of divine revelation. God revealed to us, to the church, how he expects to be worshipped. And so the chant, the Latin, the form of the liturgy, all formed together an integrity which is making a great comeback today And you mentioned the 150 Psalms. That is not the case today. We have all 150 Psalms in 1 week, as it says in the rule. But in many of the other monasteries, the more modern monasteries, it's over a 4-week period. And unfortunately, there is a controversy between those who are wanting the integrity, as I say, the fullness, the plenitude of tradition, and those who don't want it, saying it's dated, it's not for now, it's the youth. We're not going to attract vocations. We have to communicate to the youth on their own terms. And so we have now the Liturgy of the Hours, which we call the Liturgy of the Minutes. Because it doesn't, it takes just a few minutes to say the prayers, where if you saw the divine office performed by a traditional monastic community, not just Benedictines, of course, you would see right away, you would understand the answer to the question, what is prayer? And what is the church at prayer? Because when the priest prays, when the monk prays, when the clergy prays, the church comes alive. The church prays. And as soon as the book opens, whether it be the breviary of a traveling priest or the big antiphonal of a choir monk, that book opens and the church begins to pray. And this is what we're trying to convince our brothers and sisters is precisely what attracts the youth today. And on the way here, we stopped at a Benedictine convent, and the sisters there saw a little video that one of our brothers prepared for them, a little video clip of our life. And of course, it was the Mass, a solemn high Mass, the traditional Latin Mass. It was the Divine Office, Gregorian chant in Latin, choir stalls, the order, the hierarchy, the whole image of the Catholic Church all in one chapel as the essence of the monastic life. And when the video clip finished, these are mostly elderly nuns. They all commented, but no girls want this today. Huh. They don't understand. They don't understand the Latin. They don't understand this music. All they want are what they hear at rock concerts and on radio or on the entertainment of today, the mass media, and they said they write to us, they email us, and they arrive the first day, and then they turn around and leave immediately as soon as they see our monastery. So we were trying to be charitable and holding back the answers, saying, well, we know what they saw. And they saw nuns without habits. They saw Girl Scout songs during Mass. They saw no self-sacrifice. They saw no ideal of heroic sanctity being lived. And whatever they saw here caused them not to want it within minutes of arriving. And so the superior said, yes, therefore it's a question of bad formation. So I said, but they're formed in Catholic schools. So where's the deformation coming from, which is an impediment to understanding Latin or music or the traditional liturgy? Why isn't that being taught in the schools to form them and to prepare them for their vocation, where they will find the plenitude or the natural, logical continuation of a Catholic formation? But sometimes, as we say, it's a dialogue of the deaf. But we love our sisters and our brothers. They see us and wonder if this is really the answer, because it's been 50 years. It's been almost 60 years now since we've all seen these dramatic graphs and charts showing the downward slant of vocations, especially religious vocations, and most especially contemplative vocations in the church, which have gone down to the disappearance of entire orders. And so there's no excuses, no reasons. So when we provide for them the facts that we don't have enough room in our monasteries, we have waiting lists. We have a waiting list of almost 100 vocations, and we have room for 26. And so we're trying to be like the army and stack them up on monk bunks, and to try not to say no to the young men who come to us, or to the young ladies who come to our sisters, knocking at the door. St. Benedict uses in the rule the idea of knocking at the door, to persist and to persevere in asking, as our Lord said, asking you shall receive, to keep asking, even though you're pushed away. And you know, the kind of the Hollywood idea of, you know, the little door opens and you see an eye looking at you. What do you want, a friend or a foe? And the slams closed, go away. So we're trying to say yes and keep building, and to keep welcoming the vocations who are asking for admission.
Well, it's interesting because there is what you said earlier about the young people, the more modern religious believing the young people don't want the discipline and of the true monastic life.
That's exactly what
religious
they want.
Life. If you've ever read the writings of a former communist named Douglas Hyde, and he wrote a book called Dedication and Leadership. This is after his conversion back to Catholicism, and he says that because he asked the question, communism is a false system. It offers nothing but lies. And yet, at the same time, we have grown by such numbers. What is the secret? And he said that he has found, with all his years in the Communist Party, that most of the people were joining the Communist Party not because they believed in the doctrine, not because they were attracted by the doctrine, but because they were impressed with the dedication of the communists themselves. These communists believed in this doctrine, and they lived it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, willing to sacrifice everything. Now that is something secular. So even more so when the grace of God is operating, the young man looking for religious life, he's going to want to be different, and he's going to want that 150 Psalms every week instead of spread out over 4 weeks.
Yes. It's a well-known fact that the communists owe their success to their clever imitation of the apostolate of the Legion of Mary. Mm-hmm. They took the principles of the Legion of Mary and took God out, and by imitating the work of the Legion of Mary, they claimed, well, as you say, they claimed this success, and as you say, the zeal of these idealists who live and die without ever seeing the goal achieved is pretty amazing. It's diabolical. It is diabolical, because only the devil would allow generations to come and go without ever seeing the end, without ever seeing the success, but to keep the flame, the torch passed on from generation to generation blindly, and keeping the idealism. There's also a second fact, which I was maybe going to speak on tomorrow, which is the autobiography of Isabella Dodd, an Italian immigrant to New York City who was raised in a beautifully poor Catholic Italian family, and was brought back and forth from Italy to the United States as her family took the steps and stages to come here, and she was provided for by different members of the family. But the loss of zeal, partly through the fear of the immigrants to stay Italians, to stay Catholics, to remain of the Roman Church, being put into non-Catholic neighborhoods or other language neighborhoods where they cowered and formed little Catholic ghettos. The lack of zeal on the part of the Catholic Church back in those days, where the political platform was emphasized too much, maybe, scandalized a lot of these immigrant Catholics, not just the Italians. And the communists offered a substitute. Communism offered a replacement to their thirst, their idealism, which is part of the Catholic faith. Part of the character of baptism is to be zealous for the ideal, the most perfect form of sanctity and imitation of Christ. And then I traveled to the Carthusians. Before I became a Benedictine, I wanted to be a Carthusian. I wanted the Marines of the monks. They say Marines and monks are first cousins. And I wanted the most austere, the hardest, so I went to the Carthusians, and they said, we're looking out for communism, communist infiltrators. And I said, well, I'm not a communist.
And he said, they all say that?
But this was even back in the 70s. This was the 70s,
of course,
when it was still being talked about, and still a concern in religious communities to worry about infiltrators, because Isabella Dodd testified before the U.S. Senate of having infiltrated monasteries, convents, and seminaries with over 1,000 communist agents, along with Manning Johnson. It's a very famous historical page in the history of communism. And of course, Bishop Fulton Sheen was instrumental in her conversion back to the Catholic faith, to see the true Catholic Church and the revolutionary nature of communism. But her book is called The School of Darkness, which is a gripping story on the collapse or the weakness of the Catholic apostolate in her time.
Well, this brings us then, I think, to the founding of your foundation, and of course your own story. There's some water here if you like. There is that what you are doing, living the true monastic life according to the rule of St. Benedict, celebrating the Tridentine Mass,
yes,
keeping the doctrine. This is something that's not found anymore. How did this happen? How did Our Lady of Guadalupe Monastery in Silver City, New Mexico, how did it happen?
When we, in the monastic life, we can't talk about ourselves. It's a bad word to say me or I. So we have to say we. So our personal story is, as I say, I was born in the pontificate of Pius XII. So I was raised attending the traditional Latin Mass by school sisters of Notre Dame, SSND nuns, and the Catholic grade school system, as you were, and I had served the traditional Latin Mass as a boy, and then in 1968, our family went along with the changes, as everybody else mostly, and so for a period of 10 years, I attended the new Mass with my family and my social surroundings, with no questions. But then in 1978, of course, I went through high school and always desiring to be a priest, religious, a monk. And then in 78, my elder sister, who was in education, discovered the Society of St. Pius X. So she and her husband, who were both educators, went to work at the new school of Society of St. Pius X in St. Mary's, Kansas. And in her enthusiasm, she called me and invited me to come and take a look. So I said, well, I'm going to go off and be a Carthusian. She said, no, wait and come and see the Tridentine Mass. So I said, the what Mass? She said, the Latin Tridentine Mass, the Mass that you were raised with. So I came and I was transformed, seeing it. I knew I wanted to be a priest that would celebrate that Mass and all that goes around that Mass, which is the divine office and so on, the chant, etc. And so I went to St. Mary's, Kansas in 1979. I told the priest there that I would like to be a monk and a priest. And so he said, there's only one monastery in the whole world where you can find this integrity of the chant, the Latin, the Mass, the liturgy, the traditional observance of the rule of St. Benedict, and that's in France. So I couldn't speak a word of French. All I could do is imitate the Pink Panther. But when you arrive in France, they don't joke about the language. You have to learn French. So I was able to learn French in a climate of strict silence. They asked me one day, Brother Cyprian, do you not suffer because of never being able to speak English? So I said, well, fortunately the Holy Ghost knows a few words of English. But no, I was happy to be part of this revival where many vocations. I was the 30th something monk to join the monastery, and vocations were coming from the entire world. All different languages were coming to one monastery to have the same thing, which was the traditional forms of the monastic life and what the forms stand for, which is the essence of the monastic life. Not just externals. They say the habit doesn't make the monk makes the habit, which is true, but today it seems that there's an integrity desired strongly by the youth that sees the habit and then draws the correct conclusion that there must be more to the life than just the habit. That's a symbol of an integrity, something essential, which corresponds with the soul. And so, as I say, today we don't know what to do. There's a crisis of vocations, too many.
Yes, too many vocations. Too many vocations. So then what was your journey then from France to the foundation in New Mexico? Or what was, yeah, yours plural, so.
The monastic life is considered to be the heart of the church. The heart of the way a Catholic lives his faith is expressed with the greatest clarity in the monastic or the religious way of life. And the crisis is felt the most acutely in a monastery. Today we are here at the Fatima conferences, constantly hearing this word, there's a crisis, the diabolical disorientation of prophesied by Our Lady through her servants. So nothing, there is no place upon the earth where this diabolical disorientation, this confusion, the crisis, the doubts, the questions, the different opinions about what's going on is more intensely felt than in a monastery. And so being a monk, living the intensity of the Catholic faith, we feel the crisis more than anyone else, I would say. And so I had entrusted my vocation to tradition, to this restorative idea of the return to tradition. Tradition, as you know, is not a reaching back, it's a handing forward. Mm-hmm. Tradition, traditio, means handing on, like passing a torch. The Olympics begin in Greece with a torch, and they run to where the Olympics are going to take place and give the torch there. And then the runners pass it on and keep going from the origin to wherever it's going to be. That's tradition. And it's nothing to do with nostalgia, nothing to do with the past, it's as long as if the past is different than the present, it concerns that which never changes. And so that aspect of tradition, which is its true definition, is what is central to the monastic way of life, because the rule of Saint Benedict is ex traditione, from the tradition of the church. And so here we are living a 5th century rule today, perfectly in harmony with the rule, with the church, and with the modern times. Out of harmony with all that is contrary to the Catholic, to not just the Catholic order, but to natural order. And so this is what I was being formed to understand in my training, but there was some disagreements between my immediate superiors and the superiors of the Society of St. Pius X at that time, Archbishop Lefebvre, who I had spoken to confer about the church situation and my own situation. The great beauty of talking to Archbishop Lefebvre, first of all, is like you and I. He's a friend. He's this horrific, terrible Wizard of Oz projected image is false.
Of the Archbishop.
Of Archbishop Lefebvre.
Yes, yeah, I know that.
It's false, and he was defamed by his enemies, as we all know. But the great beauty of having recourse to his counsel is you had recourse to a spirit of what is inside the church. His entire career took place inside the Vatican. Most of his career took place as an insider of the Vatican. He was apostolic vicar to Africa, French-speaking Africa under Pius XII. He had work for the Vatican under John XXIII. And so he was really a man of the inside of the church. And he would teach us, he would radiate that spirit of love for the church when he talked to us. And what a great thing it is to be a servant of the church. And all the political turmoil that came about after the council, he says, is very foreign to the church. He said, for the first time in his entire career, during the Second Vatican Council, he heard the words liberal and conservative. He said, those words were never, ever before heard within the church. Because those are political words. Mm-hmm. They're not ecclesiastical words. We are all of the same mind, of the same position.
Well, it shatters the whole principle of the oneness of the faith.
Exactly. And so there was disagreement, as I say, between my immediate superior and the Archbishop as the year 1988 approached. And the Archbishop decided to consecrate 4 bishops, which was a bone of contention to his opponents. And I used canon law. We use, as part of our return to tradition, we, as Benedictines, refer to the Code of Canon Law of 1917, of that era, as the authority, as the permanent authority, and use the Code of 1983 when it agrees. When the two agree, mm-hmm. we follow that. But the Code of Canon Law of 1983 is the codification of the spirit of Vatican II. It's the canonization in canonical form of the spirit of Vatican II. So there's some, it's very controversial amongst cardinals, bishops, priests, religious. Some of the things that are said in this modern canon law are not in conformity with the idea of law as we receive it in the 1917 code. So in this Code of Canon Law, the 1917 code, it says that a religious priest, that is a priest who's under vows of a religious order, can bypass his immediate superior and withhold his obedience and refer that to his ordaining bishop, because the sacrament of holy orders establishes a relationship, a paternity, a sacramental relationship between the ordaining bishop and the priest, which is of a higher nature, a more perfect nature, than that between a religious superior and an inferior. So I had recourse to that higher relationship with the Archbishop. I took his counsel. He told me to leave. And so I left the community, which was in great turmoil, and to seek peace, not just subjective peace, not just emotional peace, but canonical peace, mm-hmm. and true peace as the Church defines peace of conscience. And so I went to visit the Archbishop. He explained to me the whole situation in private, and I asked him if I could just return back to America to reflect, and he said, yes, that's a good idea. And that's when I told him I was having a hard time with the whole thing and didn't feel up to doing much. And he said to take more vitamins. So to this day, I take vitamins.
Now, believe it or not, we only have a few minutes left. So what can you tell us kind of in a capsule of Our Lady of Guadalupe Monastery in Silver City, New Mexico? We only have a couple minutes, so.
Yes. The monastery is a work of faith. The Archbishop's final words to me were, it's time to do the impossible. You must do the impossible to establish this community in New Mexico. And then he passed away. So we've been doing the impossible now for 21 years. And our modus operandi is the plenitude of tradition with no excuses. And the fullness of the divine office, we rise as the rule says. We live the rule as it is written, in all of its minor observances, all of its major observances, and we are We confide our priestly vocations to the Society of St. Pius X Seminaries. We have a working relationship with the priests of the society and so on. And so we recruit many of our vocations from their parishes. And so the young men coming to us now want what we have and only that. And so we have given up everything to do that. And we are persecuted, we are perhaps misunderstood, we are watched perhaps very carefully. We don't know. But this is what we do, and we feel it's important to be completely who we are. And we travel always in the full habit. We never withhold any part of the fullness of the Benedictine tradition.
How could, I'm sure there's young men watching this who might want to contact you. How would they make contact?
Yes, we have an email address which we can provide for you. We have a postal address. We are physically in New Mexico if they want to come see us.
Well, you could say the email address now if you like.
It would be OLOG monastery @gmail.com.
I've yet to visit your monastery, but I've seen pictures of a glorious stone or at least concrete-looking building in the best tradition of monastic life. The monks do their own building. They have their sheep. They're living the monastic life as St. Benedict intended and as the tradition of the church has it. Father Cyprian, thank you for being here. I'm afraid we're out of time. There's a lot more we could talk about, but we appreciate this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Our Lady said, "If my requests are not heeded, Russia will spread her errors throughout the world, raising up wars and persecutions against the Church. The good will be martyred. The Holy Father will have much to suffer, and various nations will be annihilated."